topic right now amongst conventions and amongst cosplayers across the globe. It is not exclusively a United States thing, it's not even exclusively an Idaho thing, but it definitely is something that is topical and it's important. I have a lot of really fantastic people up here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kitty, the original Spider-Maid.
I'm Tanglewista Holloway. I'm one of the costumers that they have here at Tomodachi Fest. The other people, Green Jello Cosplay, had to do another thing, so they could not be here, but they wanted to say that they very much support this panel.
I'm John Farmer. I go to a lot of conventions.
So you're a publisher?
I'm a publisher with Fantastic Journeys Publishing, which is why I go to a lot of conventions.
I'm Tina Tabbs. I'm a con staff member at not this con,
But at many cons.
many others in Idaho. This is my vacation con.
Okay.
I'm DC Robbins. I do a lot of props and costumes for commission. I cosplay quite a bit.
I'd like to ask a few questions of the group. When have you encountered people making assumptions about your cosplay? DC, we'll start with you.
Well, I think because of the gender stereotypes and the types of costumes that I do, I don't typically get a whole lot of sexual, miscommunication, but I do get a lot of people who do judge what I'm wearing based on just first glance. That can be really frustrating, especially when you hear comments that they don't think you hear about, oh yeah, I must have bought that, or that looks so different from the original canon, or that sort of thing. It just can be very frustrating.
Or when they decide that they want to touch your prop.
Oh yeah, actually somebody picked up my helmet and walked off with it, my Mandalorian helmet. Picked up and walked off with it, and that did not end well. Not happy with that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, where do I start?
Pick the most recent, that's a good one.
Oh, jeez. Most recent would probably be I did Chiara, the Anime Oasis mascot, and what I had to deal with was, you're too black to be her, and too fat. And I was like, thanks, guys. And my favorite line was, that skirt's too short, you must be a whore.
Oh.
So,
These kinds of assumptions are exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. I know that you definitely
Oh,
encountered
what,
this
so you're
all
just
the
going to skip me?
Yeah, because you're a boy. That kind of assumption is also something that is very common. People discount people because of one thing or another, but please.
For me, my cosplays tend to be of a medieval bent. Most of my costumes come from a medieval recreationist society they belong to. And one of my coats is a very soft, wonderful velvet coat. And I regularly have people just come and go, ooh,
Because
and start rubbing it, whether or not I wanted them to.
Oh goodness, so many things. Well, I mean, like recently I had Squirrel Girl,
yes.
that big bushy tail. You would not believe how many people would randomly come up and hug my butt.
Yeah.
And it was very precariously hooked onto the back of my costume. I'm like, don't touch the butt. It's not your butt. I get a bit of an odd thing with this particular one because, especially online, because people can sit there and objectify it without having to have an actual face behind the person. So, there's a lot of that. I do some with short mini skirts, mostly because I really love the shoes. It's terrible, but I know. Because of some of the things that I have encountered, not just here, but actually at a lot of out-of-state conventions, where people are like, oh look, I'm on my cell phone. Oh look, someone with a little tiny skirt's coming by. hi, I'm just gonna walk by with my cell phone at hip length. Yeah, so now I wear booty shorts underneath everything, just to make sure that, you know, all they're gonna get is black. They don't get anything entertaining.
How about you, Daniel?
One of the things that I get is that I'm too old, and I shouldn't be doing the fill in the blank. I get that I'm too heavy, so I shouldn't be doing the fill in the blank. And pregnant women understand this easier than anybody else, but any part of your body that sticks out farther than 4 inches is public property. So pregnant
Assumed
women,
to be public
yeah,
property,
assumed
it's
to
not
be,
actually public property.
yeah, but they treat it that way. So when a woman is very pregnant, people will come up and just start touching your stomach. And it's like, no, you know, no, I don't care. And consequently, these are farther out than 4 inches from my body. And so for decades, this was a standard greeting. And it's like, one of the things that happens when you are in that position a lot is that people are under the impression that this is okay because it's happened so often. And it's a mentality that you get into not just as a person it's happening to, but also as a person who is doing it. This happens all the time, therefore it must be okay. So 3 things that I want to point out to about and address and have all of us talk about in Cosplay is Not Consent is if you are in a costume, this is not consent to be grabbed. If you are in a costume, this is not consent to grab. And if you are not in a costume, this is not consent to grab or be grabbed. Because in fact, that's exactly what it is. Have any of you guys encountered something where someone else is not like that whenever they're in costume, but when they're in costume they get very grabby?
Rather
Yes.
frequently.
Okay?
I don't wish to,
Yeah, you're not allowed to
generalize,
say anybody.
but one of the things that I see with a lot of fursuits is they feel as though they are more comfortable being in a crowd, so they're more outgoing, which isn't a problem in and of itself. But there are those who feel like they can get away with more, and so they push that boundary because I'm in a mask, so therefore I'm lovable.
One of the things I came across was a guy who played Miroku from Inuyasha, and he was
Yeah.
molesting girls all the time in the show, which the guy took as permission to do.
Yes.
And I'm like, no. After I bit his head off, he asked before anybody else, but still, it's like, no, you can't dress up as a character just so you can molest people thinking it's okay, you're in character. No, that's not cool.
Correct.
There's a boundary you gotta.
There are boundaries. One of the things, what about you, Chris? Do you?
Oh man. Not gonna lie, it was me. I was that person for the longest time until I started cosplaying, like legitimately spending more than like $10 at Hot Topic. And I was growing up. I grew up in the scene. Don't judge. But yeah, I was that person who was like, oh well, I'm totally wearing like cat ears and like this Naruto headband, and I was that person who was like, oh, what's up, so and so, boobs. It's okay, I got boobs too. And then I started being the face of the con, and I was like, I should probably not do that
anymore. Yeah, when you're growing up in a scene like that, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you're growing up in a scene like that and you think it's okay because it happens all the time. And now we're getting more aware. Now we're learning that no, actually, that's pretty bad. There's a YouTuber out there, oh God, I had his name, Jeff something or other. Anyway, but he's a YouTuber who goes out and his whole shtick is like he walks up to women on the street and he's talking to them, you know, asking them questions like directions or something like this, and the girl will turn her head away from him and he grabs her ass. And it's like, you know, and he looks around like, whoa, what the heck, dude? You know, but he films it because he's looking for the reactions. And he does this over and over and over and over and over again, and that's his show. Or another one, he was on a beach in Florida, and he says, yeah, I'm like doing the best kisser at the beach thing, so, yeah. And these are random people, these are strangers on the street.
How
And
do you got teeth left?
yeah, I don't know. But I think it was because there was a camera involved and he's directly to the camera. And so they feel like they can't say anything. And people were kind of trying to stop him. And some of the girls were like really confused about what was going on. But he thought because he had a camera, he was entitled. And entitlement is always, hello, and entitlement is always the problem. In all cases, when someone feels as though they are entitled to you or anything about you, that is where the problem stems from. One of the other challenges that people have, and this has happened to a couple of our friends recently, that the guys say things like on a long post that Kitty and I think and Tina know about, I know you do, I think you do too, a really long post on my Facebook wall. Someone said, women are not taught these techniques for rape prevention. This is stuff you saw on TV and it isn't true. And I'm going, 5th grade.
Pretty much around 4th, 5th grade when it's like puberty video time.
Yep, you?
I don't know. My school was really weird. They never
Well,
actually showed anything.
When did
like
you
that.
learn how to hold your keys if you're walking through a parking lot?
I think they. Oh god.
5 years old.
5 years
I
old.
think that
Too
was,
smart for strangers from Winnie the Pooh.
yeah.
How about you?
I think it was like junior high.
Okay. Now, guys, what were you taught when they took you in health class away from the girls to talk about what it was going to be like when you,
Your voice is gonna crack and it'll be embarrassing.
Yeah, the voice cracking.
how to put on a condom? What about
Yeah.
you?
Not the last of the word penis.
Got it.
That was, everybody was cracking up at that.
Right. Who was taught, you're going to have to shower more?
Our teacher
Yeah.
told us to do that anyway.
Yeah. Hair? Hair growth?
I remember we might have taught something about
Yeah,
particular self-examination.
Yeah. Yeah. We were taught how to gouge out eyes. When did you guys learn how to gouge out eyes in your high school?
Iraq. Wait, no.
Yeah, but not
Gym
in high school,
class.
right? Not in junior high?
Having to self-defend from bullies?
6th grade.
Yeah.
I grew up in
Yeah.
Arkansas. We got
You know,
a lot of those classes. So.
yeah, but we get them as part of our 5th grade education. 5th grade.
And it's even done indirectly through like dress code. Oh, your spaghetti strap, it's got to be 3 fingers width, or you're too distracting. Boys, like
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
your
I
shorts
I-
have to be longer than your middle finger down
I
the front when you're
personally
standing
take
straight.
issue with that as a guy.
Yeah, I was wondering, how many people have you raped this weekend?
Oh, it's still early.
It's still
So-
early, because,
Nah.
I mean, I'm pretty
Um,
sure we've been in this room with, like, multiple women.
Yeah,
And
I-
I'm not
I
entirely
see-
certain how.
I see a fair amount of flesh, and you notice I'm still sitting here and not, drooling.
How do you resist
Um,
the temptation?
I don't know, I'm under the impression.
Because I'm actually a person.
Oh,
You know,
wait a minute, are there any
that's-
other people in this room?
No, because.
Oh, wait a minute, Mason's a person. Devin, you're a person? Seriously?
I'm occasionally more than a very angry visual act, so.
Got
You know,
it.
the
Wait,
problem
If it
that
does something, it'll probably have a minimum of 3 people drop kicking.
yeah.
Well, so whenever I hear the question of what was she wearing, or why was she walking down that street, or she was asking for it, or anything like that, I'm sitting here going, so the guy didn't have the ability to control himself? What was he mentally impaired?
Yeah.
Had he gotten an actual brain injury? Because then I can see having self-control issues. But as a guy who is regularly exposed to female flesh in various shades of cover, I have miraculously not raped anyone ever, or really felt the
Or
urge
accidentally.
to.
Have you ever accidentally raped?
Not that I'm aware of or been told that I had.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
it,
Okay.
and I would be absolutely shocked if I had.
But maybe it wasn't legitimate.
Yeah. legitimate, oh,
But the problem is, men are taught boys will be boys. Girls are taught
Don't provoke boys.
don't provoke boys,
yeah.
which is a problem societally because it says that guys are nothing more than uncontrolled beasts who should be leashed and probably imprisoned upon birth. You know, in my opinion, if a girl walks outside, down the street naked, the only thing she should fear is a sunburn.
Yes.
Well, the problem is, there are people out there that just don't have that level of self-control that, well, most of us do.
Yeah, we
And-
call those people psychotic and serial killers.
And those
But-
people
but the
should be in
problem-
mental
but the-
hospitals.
Yeah, but the problem is, they are there.
Yeah, but so it's not a danger for you to walk down the street. At
It
no
might be.
point at no point do people say, well, how are you holding your keys? How are you dressed? I was dressed like this. Okay.
Why were you walking down through that parking lot at night? Because that's where my car was.
Yeah, I'm not trying to excuse
No,
it all.
I
I'm saying,
understand that.
I'm admitting the reality that there are predators out there.
There
And
are.
That don't care.
But this discussion isn't what the situation is now. This discussion is how do we get to where we should be? Because we shouldn't be here. There should never be a time when a woman should feel as though a rape was a possibility. You know, there is never a time when a guy should feel as though it is his prerogative, his right, to have a woman's body for himself. Yes.
Kind of a flip side to this, just own personal experience with the whole, like, just boys will be boys, but then there's also the other side of it where women are kind of being predators to guys, because I know sometimes when I've cosplayed, I tend to cosplay, like, I don't know the word, it's not like revealing, because I actually cover up a lot, but just like popular characters. And so there's a lot of girls who will come up to me and be like, oh my god, I'm like, get away, not into you like that.
Yeah. And that is
You know?
that is the other side of cosplay is not consent. Just because you're in a costume or someone you like is cosplaying out there, you know. I mean, if I were to see someone who actually looked like Sesshomaru, I would be like this side of breaking glass with my squee. Okay? Because that
No,
would
no,
be
you actually broke glass last time.
Anyway, but
You went travel.
it was a very expensive day. But in fact, I would be crazy overseeing the costuming and how they did it. But I would not feel as though I had a right to attack this person physically. And that's another thing. And there's also the concept of catcalls. Catcalls is something that women know about from, you know, very young age, because parts of us tend to stick out and parts go in, and so this creates a pleasing shape because girls are pretty.
Whereas boys are confusing.
Boys confusing.
There is
There's
nothing more confusing than a naked man running.
Yes. Not our work.
But
That's actually a comedian's work, but it's still true. You know, so consequently, because women are made so aesthetically pleasing, it tends to be one of those things that sometimes these women think that because they are aesthetically pleasing, they can do whatever they want and compromise somebody else's personal space.
We call that princess syndrome.
Okay, yeah, or cheerleader syndrome. And then you see someone walking around in a lollipop chainsaw cheerleader outfit or a Buffy Summers cheerleader outfit, and you're kind of going, I'm confused. Because I don't know if I should hate them or love them because they're cosplaying a character that I really like. But in the end, what the point is on it is that if you are in a costume, that does not give you any more rights to somebody else's physical form than it gives them right to violate yours. And this is important. One of the things that Devin does is he teaches a self-defense course for folks who go to a convention and they want to know how to have somebody deal with you if they are coming at you. If you find yourself in a compromising situation, how do you get yourself out of it? You've been invited to a room. Turns out that they're going to be drinking and they're doing some partying there. Okay, that's fine, but in the end, you start feeling unsafe. something unsafe happens, he's there to kind of help you get yourself out of that room. And sometimes it's, you know, a physical violent thing. If you get provoked to that point, you're going to want that training. There's a whole nother aspect to that of how to deal with it diplomatically once you're in the room if you do not feel as though it's a good idea for you to throat punch this person. Because then there are 4 other friends will jump you and there will be no throat punching and you won't get out of this.
Or you know, they're your best, or you thought they were your best friend and now they're suddenly turning out to be a creeper.
Yeah, those sorts of things can be very confusing. Not to mention the fact that as women, we have been trained from a very young age that you are the peacemakers, you are the nurturers, you are the ones that settle, that calm. And if you get yourself into a situation, it's on you. And that is also not consent. I was telling Mason about this yesterday, that there was an article that we saw posted on Facebook, and I also reblogged it to say, please stop this, that was all about how to have sex with anime girls at cons. That was the title of the article, how to have sex at anime cons. And it was a step-by-step guide to how to stop the white knight, how to get past the ugly friend.
I got too much blood on my hands to be a white knight.
how
Red knights
to,
are okay too.
you know, how to get her in a compromising situation, how to get her up to your room, what to say about her costume. It was a step-by-step guide on how to rape her. And it was out there, pushed, so that people go into these conventions, get preyed upon. And I'm sitting here going, if anybody that I know knew about this, they would immediately be interfering with this because they'd start looking for the behavior. And that's why I put it on my Facebook wall. I said, please, people and staff, you know, people who are cosplayers, people who are fans.
That's been useful at the past 3 conventions, by the way.
Yeah, have this in your hands. Because if you know what they're doing, you know what to look for. And if you find yourself in an elevator with these people, and they start doing these things, you know what they're going for. Protect yourselves. Or know what you're hearing when you hear it. These are important.
I
Okay.
got a good amount of stuff.
All right, thank you so much for coming in. Are there any questions? What are some questions that you guys have? You know, yes?
Well, it's actually not a question, but it's just an experience I had. Well,
Yeah.
not only is it just cosplay, but also in football.
Yeah.
I had things where the coaches would slap my ass. Go get him, Tiger, and slap my ass. And it got to the point where I told him I didn't like it. And then the next coach was telling me, go in there, get him. And I was like, I stopped, turned around, I'm like, you're not doing this anymore. Leave me alone. Don't touch my ass. And that publicly shamed them because even on tape, they can see me pushing the coach back and tell him not to do that anymore.
Good.
Yeah.
See, that's an example of what is something that is considered to be tradition, becoming, I wouldn't necessarily say evil, but no longer necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Harassment.
I know in the Army, you get 60 guys together in a barracks, and we're going to do a lot of really good stuff.
You get 60 guys anywhere and they're going to do really good stuff.
It's just what guys do, but
You know,
But girls do it too. Girls do weird stuff, but you guys don't.
you know.
But you guys don't have to wear nail polish that tells you whether or not there's a date rape drug in your drink.
Yeah.
just because, you know, it's expected of you in any situation, or you feel as though you need to compromise your personal morals to avoid drama, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't.
These people, the folks on this panel right now, the people sitting up here, they've had their share of dramatic difficulties repeatedly. And if you feel yourself in a situation where you might be feeling nervous, you know, you got a person who keeps coming into work and they keep telling you that they just come in to see you. And you're going, that's nice. And then they're there 4 hours. Reading and watching. Okay? You know, you've got people who constantly make assumptions about your sexuality. And it's like, okay, you know, does that really matter? You know, yeah.
One thing, because I work at a warehouse with contractors a lot. One of the things that happens is on my apron, I painted the Batman logo and my name in 3D paint. Two things. The first one, I was returning something. This woman, she just reaches over and rubs her hands on my chest, and she's like, "Oh, it is 3D," and then walks off. Most of the time, I'm too shocked to do anything about it. And then this is the only time that's happened. And then ever since I got my tattoo,
Yay!
I've had women, they'll go up, they'll flip my arm shirt up, and then go back down. Like, just my sleeve. I'm like, what? And then another couple of the guys will come and they'll trace it. And I'm like, I've only had it maybe a month or two, and it still kind of hurts if you touch it. And so I'm like, no. And then some of my coworkers, one of them used to spank my butt. I turned at her. I'm like, please do not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple others, it's like, you just ask permission first. And now I've come across as, oh, you don't like to be touched. One of them that used to spank my ass, she's like, oh, you just don't like to be touched. I'm like, no!
It's not your bottom.
I'm like, don't spank my butt. I can hug you all you want. That is cool with me. Do not touch my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had people grab my shirt plenty of times after I got my tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of Walmart, I had the cashier actually go, "Oh, I like that." I'm like, "Okay, well, thank you, but just I don't mind if you look."
That I appreciate the fact that my cleavage is fascinating to you. Could you please get your tongue out of it?
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I have it here, and it's not for any special
It's-
reason. And I've had people think it's for attention to. I'm like, no, it's because from the show that
Yeah.
I got it. That's where it's at.
Yeah, there's a couple of friends of mine that have the supernatural tattoo right here.
Yeah.
And I'm like kind of going, well, now they've gotten my first tattoo, I'll probably do that and this one, and this one over here, and I'm going to have, you know, the USS Indianapolis here, and all be removed, and, you know, I mean, all of these things like that. But yes, ink and piercings do not entitle somebody who is not you to touch them.
Oh man, like even with these tentacle earrings, I
Yeah.
had a guy at just come up to me, "Oh hey, what's up?" And there's a current situation where physical contact with me is not allowed, even though I did nothing in the wrong. It's
Okay.
kind of interesting. And they just started like making out with the tentacle on my ear, and that was really uncomfortable. And it's like, "Oh, it's Tina, it's okay."
Yeah.
Because I'm Tina, it's okay.
And I've had that happen too because I'm Tangled. And it's like, oh, well, everybody knows me. It's like, yeah.
Who's Tina? She doesn't care.
I've had weird stuff like that happen too because I run the Yowie panel.
Well, yes.
People say things, people do things, and some of it's fine when it's part of the panel and there is consent there, but when it happens in the hallway just randomly in front of people that are probably underage, not okay.
Joe.
Sort of with the whole, oh, it's just Tina, not, like, a lot of my friends kind of see me as, like, the little one, like, Devin is that, and so I'm usually the one who's kind of picked on, but also people, like, just are very, like, hey, I'm gonna touch you, and so people kind of see that, especially around con, and they just come up and, like, touch me, and I'm like, oh, it's just little Joe, we can do whatever we want with him. I'm like, no, get away, please, don't touch me, I don't like that, but no one understands that, because you know, I have this whole thing, I'm like, oh, I'm happy and fun and little Joe, just, and everyone's like, nope, that means I can touch you wherever I want. Like, that's
Right.
not cool.
It is not. So I know that I'm not certain what our time is, but I don't
We're
want to overrun.
have plenty of time.
Okay, we got plenty of time. So one of the things that can help is knowing that you have support. Okay, you have support. Now it's really tricky because these cons here in Idaho, you have support because many of the people, as Tina and Devin can attest, staff all the cons. Well, we have a new Comic-Con opening here in 2 weeks. And that one is a little bit of a challenge because people who are running it have never run an event of any kind prior to that. And so this is very confusing because there's so much to do and they're kind of overwhelmed. And there's a lot of things that we see as costumers that we're a little bit nervous about. So the Gem State costumers decided to come in and have a presence there. And one of the things that does for other people in the community is you know our faces, you know who we are, and we will be there if a situation comes up. We don't know who their staff is because not everybody that is on their staff has been on our staff. So they don't know. These are people that you want to watch out for. They don't know. This person is socially awkward. If there are too many people in a room, they'll leave. That's not them deciding that there's drama between this person and this person just walked in. It's more of a more than 6 people and this person leaves because they've got too much stimulus. Little things like that. And so we as a community who will probably be attending the convention need to be there so that if an incident happens, people know who to direct to.
Yeah, support kind of goes actually further than that. One of the biggest problems with rape culture in general is reporting, getting reported. You know, if somebody walks up and grabs you, are you going to go tell one of the staffers that this guy just did that? If you're a girl, honestly, probably not. If you're a guy, probably not as well, but you're probably going to hit the guy. You know, it's kind of the attitude you get. And a lot of that comes down to 2 phrases. Bros before hoes. So guys are taught that you support your buddies, you support your bros. You know, the girl is probably just going out for attention. You did nothing wrong, you know, she's just a bitch. Just move on. And girls are taught fairest one in the land. And that sets up a really hostile situation for every woman in the world because they are alone. And they are taught that they're alone from the beginning. They are taught that if anybody is prettier than they are, they're a threat. If anybody is smarter than they are, they're a threat. If anybody is anything more than they are, they're a threat and must be taken out. So when a woman comes forward and says, I was raped by this guy, it's very likely, in fact, I would put it at probably about 100% that at some point she's going to have somebody say, you're just going out for attention. Or say, well, you slept with him once, or anything like that. And that will come from both sides. That'll come from the women who really should be supporting her because they're just as much a victim as she is. And it comes from the guys who need to stop supporting assholes who are predators. But because we're taught both of those from such a young age, it is instilled in us that you hear these things and your first reaction is to question it rather than to believe them. And that support needs to be there. When somebody says anything about their experiences, you have to believe them first. Every time.
Because it's very difficult to come forward. It's very difficult to admit that you don't want to have your butt fondled by an adult. Thank you very much. You know, you don't want to have someone grab your shirt and yank it down so they can look at your tattoo. You know, you don't want to have someone decide that they're going to read for 4 hours in your store, which is a restaurant. No. You know, you don't want people to be under the impression that talking about this fanciful art form that, you know, is something that you actually want to discuss loudly across a room with, you know, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir walking through, you know? Well, that would be kind of funny.
I know for me personally, I was molested when I was very young in elementary school by a neighbor. And my parents asked me several times throughout the years whether it had happened. And I lied the first time. And after that, I kept lying because I didn't want to get in trouble for having lied the first time. And when I finally broke down and I just couldn't deal with it anymore and told them, I didn't get in trouble. It was amazing, actually. And my parents are wonderful. I love them to death. And they did everything right. Unfortunately, I was so young I didn't have any details to convict the bastard. But it was that coming forward was such a hard thing. I mean, for kids, for adults, across the board, coming forward is one of the hardest things you can do, and it's because you're not guaranteed to have that support.
And that's something we need to change. That's why this is such a big movement. That's why all of this is so important. You know, having people that are willing to say, I believe you, is quintessential. So you have a report, or you have something happen, and you want to report it, and you go, I'm not sure if I should. The people around you need to say, yes, we believe you, let's go take care of this. And this is important at a lot of conventions. San Diego Comic-Con itself had a lot of complaints post-con and during con about sexual harassments that were reported and ignored, like blatantly ignored. This person is over there right now taking upskirt shots. Here's a photo of the guy doing it. Oh, well, we can't do anything about that. It's not happening right now. Here's his picture. You can see his face. You can see what he's wearing. You've got 4,000 people on staff. Find him. You know, that's an important thing. If you see something happening, everybody has a phone on them nowadays. If you're concerned about it, take a picture of it. Talk to the person afterwards. Say, you looked uncomfortable. Are you okay? And feel free to ask that question of anybody. One of the things I was talking with David Vincent about right outside, he's a pretty big name in anime. And as a result, he's done a lot of anime. He does a lot of conventions. The guy's built pretty well. He's extremely friendly and nice. And getting glumped or hugged, kind of a, you know,
It's
Yeah,
an
tackle
enthusiastic-
hug.
It's an enthusiastic.
Yeah.
enthusiastically
Full
hugged, it's something he has to deal with all the time. But if you have 130,000 people at this convention, like Salt Lake Comic-Con did, just a couple months ago, that's a lot of energy bombarding you all the time. And having a little distance from people can be a little bit challenging. So people when they're walking through an area, getting suddenly, you know, surprise tackled can be really, really exhausting and devastating. And God forbid they've ever had a situation that concusses into a panic attack. Because then, now they've just jeopardized their entire career because somebody decided they were entitled to hug.
We have about 10 minutes left.
What sorts of things?
Well, actually, before that, I wanted to say, from each panelist, if there's one thing that people here in this room and watching the vlog can take away from this, what is the one thing you want them to remember, to take away from? Devin?
One thing that everyone should remember on this particular subject is the fact that no one has rights to your body, period. I don't care if it's between, you know, opposite sexes, same sexes, regardless of the situation. If you're uncomfortable about it, let them know. If they stop, report them. I've been doing conventions for a decade now, and I've dealt with hundreds of incidences. And almost every single time that it's come to light after a convention, it's because the person's scared. The biggest weapon in any sexual predator's arsenal is fear. Fear of getting told that you're lying, fear that you're not going to get believed, fear that your friends aren't going to, want to talk to you, fear of drama. Yeah, I can understand being scared. I've had some pretty shitty situations in my life. But it's just, once you get past that point and you inform somebody else about it, there's going to be a really large community coming to take care of you. Early on in the con years here, before we really had policies because we hadn't dealt with a lot of the issues, it was more along the lines of either get the cops involved or wait for them when the lights are out in the parking lot and deal with them solo. And unfortunately, action like that is still required today, 10 years later, when we have 60 to 80 staff for a 1,000 person con. like last little note on it is, if you think that the person you're going to be reporting to is a friend of the individual that you're reporting, find another staff. Finding things, getting buried, because once again the bros before hoes thing. I don't want my buddy getting in trouble. That's not going to reach up to higher. It's happened. I'm not saying that don't trust con staff, but when you report to someone who has zero involvement. There's a situation last night where some people were harassing Tina, and one of her friends offered to get involved in it. Anytime that you know a person involved in any situation, you are immediately emotionally compromised. Doesn't matter if you're angry at that point in time. It takes about 0.2 seconds to throw a punch. It happens fast.
Did you get it?
No.
Sorry, you bastard.
All right, Tina, what do you want?
I'd have to say is that the behavior can be changed. I mean, like, I grew up in the con scene. I was that asshole who'd just be like,
Sorry.
who would be like,
Get it?
No.
be like coming up from behind and be like, I'm pretty sure I've done it to
Yeah.
Kitty multiple times, going, hi Kitty, rub, 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 rub. It's okay, it's me, it's just Tina. And I've grown up, I've had to deal with this stuff, and nah, this isn't cool. And so I changed my act. And when you see someone who's trying to change the behavior, don't be like, nah, they're gonna do it. And that's what my issue is currently, having to do it. I've been known to, be like, sup, dick slap.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
It
that
was-
hurts at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday.
Yeah.
But
That was something I did when I was like a teenager, and I'm in my mid-20s now, and I'm changing. I'm going, no, it's cool. You get a hug. You just get a hug. It's like, no, man, you're Tina. You do this. No, that is not who I am now. Don't try to bring me down to where I used to be. I've come so far.
I'm involved.
Yeah. Change can happen, and don't try and stop it. Encourage it. Help it grow.
For me, it's believe them. Less than 2% of rapes are false accusations. Less than 2% of the accusations are false, I should say. That means that probably less, of that 2%, only 50% of rapes get even reported to anyone. When someone tells you that something happened, they're not looking for attention. They're looking for help. Believe them every time, regardless of who they are and what they've done in the past. It doesn't matter. What matters is they need your help now. Believe them.
I would want people to know that there's someone there for you, always. And the guests are frequently a good choice because they have been through it. And if you go up to a guest and you say, I just had someone do something and I'm really not sure what to do about it, but I feel very violated. You have a really high percentage that guest is going to go, I will drop what I'm doing to take you where you need to be. And I can say that as a guest myself, and I know Kitty can say that. But yeah, you walk up to them and say, this just happened to me. I need to report it, but I'm scared to death they're not going to believe me. It's like, walk this way.
My biggest thing is do not be afraid to report when something bad happens. I regret not doing that for some incidences that I've had, but I've learned that the support here is amazing, and you will always, always find someone to be in your corner. On another interesting note,
She can play the accordion.
I can't see it. But for those of you that are afraid that you might come off badly, in order to prevent bad behaviors, always ask permission
Yes.
for anything. I I have actually gotten to where I'm sick of being manhandled,
Yeah.
especially in
Yeah.
photos. Because you wear something like this and people think, oh, well, you know, her hip's defined. I'm just gonna slap my hand there and yank her against me. And no, if they ask me for a photo, I tell them, you know, stand right here. I'm going to pose on you. Hi. If somebody is wanting something like that, as a cosplayer, you have the right to direct them how you want them to be because they are asking you for a favor. They are not entitled to anything. And if they don't want to do what you're wishing, you don't have to take the photo at all. So, yeah.
Good job. Thank you. Anything from anybody
So
else?
we got a few moments for questions or comments from the meeting.
Yeah,
I've always
hi.
found out that the best thing is no means no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It
Ask
goes-
permission, because I have asked one for the, one for the collection. I said, not right now. I said, fine, no, back off. And I would, I always try to keep the 3 feet of, space.
I think it needs to go beyond that. It's not just no means no. Yes only means yes.
Yes means yes. An enthusiastic yes.
Yes means yes.
Yeah.
If you're not getting something that says, I am happy with this situation, please continue with it, then it's a no.
Yeah.
Silence is not consent.
Yes.
As an introvert, I already have a problem interacting with people, and like, if I see somebody in a costume asking to take a picture, let alone pose with them. This panel is making me even more scared to death to approach people, because I might be that guy.
Yeah. Being respectful is always the way to do it. Okay? I know a lot of people in this area, and I know a lot of people outside this area. And so when I say, hey, how you doing? Can I hug you? And it's somebody that I've known for a long time, that's still showing them respect, that I recognize their boundaries. And they may be going through something right now that I have no clue about. Right this second. Usually I'd say okay, but today, I just got into a car accident and I'm freaked out. I just accidentally overdosed because my one doctor didn't look at my chart and gave me meds that interacted, and that was 2 days ago.
My fibromyalgia is acting up and it hurts to touch
Right.
anything.
It turns out I have a tumor. Ow. So yeah, those are things that I wouldn't necessarily know about, but it's a change from what's happened before. So always ask. And if they say yes, great. And if they say no, or not right now, that's like, great, not a problem. And that is the only...
Yeah. We're not trying to scare you
We're not
into
trying to
not
scare you.
doing things, unless the thing you're trying to do is, sexually molest or rape someone.
Yeah, we don't want you to
But-
do that.
No.
Or even I might not even approach somebody, but I might see somebody in a costume that I like, but I'm too scared to approach them. But I might linger too long. I might look too intently.
That's not a
am I
problem.
going to be pointed out as the that
Well,
guy?
ask. So ask.
You shouldn't be, but
Or even I
ask.
don't want to button them. I like I
if
can.
you've got
I
if
can.
you've got a friend
But-
who you're hanging out with, say, was that creepy?
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be a way to handle that. Just try to figure out where you're at. But watching somebody is not necessarily a problem unless you're doing this.
Yeah.
And it's totally fine to ask your friend, like, hey, I like their costume, but you know how I am. Explain how I am and see if they'll still let me get a photo on my camera.
One thing I do, because I have a tendency to watch people, and I find I get this really bad when I see Ichigo from Bleach.
Yep.
Anybody cosplaying him, I turn into a squealing fangirl. But I kind of look at him, and then in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to come across as a creeper, so I ask my friend, I'm like, hey, can you go take the picture?
Yeah.
Can you go take? And then they'll sit, and Kitty will go over there and she'll talk to him, and then she points at me, and I'm like, no, I'm too scared. And then I'll come over, and they're like, cool, and I'm like, can I have a hug? Can I have a picture? And that's all you gotta do.
Hey Jake, I know exactly where you're sitting, dude. Like, I'm a pretty outgoing guy. Most people know me, I'm pretty loud and proud. I've known Chris Rager for 4 years. He's been my friend on Facebook. This is the first year I've actually been able to talk to him.
So yeah, it can be really challenging. But yes, when you're in that situation, you're nervous about it, just ask. Believe it or not, even if we're having a conversation and you say, I really love your costume, can I get a picture? We will probably say, yeah, hang on just a second, pause our conversation, take the picture, because we know this isn't a lifetime commitment. We know that you're there and you're probably going to say thank you and go. It's not a big deal.
Also on that note with pictures, it's always a very nice, respectful thing to show them the picture that you have
Yes.
just taken.
Yes. Because if you show them the picture, you're showing them that you are not doing anything shifty.
And half the
I know,
time,
Heinz says all the time.
yeah, half the
I'll
time they
just
won't
here.
be looking for the
Picture,
boob
right?
shots. They'll just be going, oh man, my chin's doing something really weird.
Yeah, really.
Can we retake that?
Yeah. Oh,
I want you
I
to have
didn't
another
realize
photo.
my teeth have lipstick on it.
Yeah.
I've had multiple cosplayers be like, oh, can we redo that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Oh, I'm blurry.
So Joe, I think you had your hand up to say
Yeah.
something.
Oh, no, I was just saying I really like what you were saying. Even if you know someone, always check. Especially because if you think about it, the gaps between conventions in any local area, because that's where, and even if you know someone like by a day-by-day basis, you should do that, but I think it's really important in this type of scene because, you know, the shortest gap we have between conventions is like about 2 months or so.
Yeah.
And then you go for about half a year till the, you know, the next one comes
interaction.
up. Yeah, and something like that, in 2 months, let alone half a year, a lot can happen. And so, you know, you should always definitely make sure, especially in this scene.
Very good.
I've known Tangle for several years now,
Yeah.
and I've even busted heads on her behalf, and when I run into her at a con, I still say hug.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do appreciate that. Yeah.
Me, I listen to a lot of furry, so I listen to like furry podcasts. And,
Right.
they do a lot on cons and everything. So like, oh yeah, you make sure you know they only have limited vision. If you take a picture with them, you know, ask first. And like that's what I do with like all the cosplayers. Like, oh, can I get a picture? And it's like, oh, can I take a selfie? Oh, can I put my arm like this or something?
Yep.
And it's just like it's just the boundaries that you already have set in place. Like this is another person. I'm pretty much going in and getting in their bubble to take
Yes.
a picture.
And they're allowing me in, or quite possibly, I'm at least asking permission to come in. To
Yeah.
take it.
I
To
think,
take it.
some
Don't be scared to
people-
be yourself with cosplayers.
Yeah, most furries, like, I like to go hug furries, and I'm like, oh, can I get a hug? And I'm like, I make sure, because there's a squeaker.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you sure? Can I get a hug? And she's like, oh, yeah, nod. And I was like, okay, then I can go hug. But there's, I just make sure. Just to be
It's
like,
true, and sometimes furries are in the fursuit because they can't handle human contact. I've got a couple of those.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned in part of the furry fandom, I don't know that everybody knows the etiquette of it. There's actually an etiquette to it.
No, but I eat
But-
sushi with my fingers, so.
But there is a universal sign for hug. And if you do this back, that means, yes, I want a hug.
Except hug, yeah.
That's generally how I ask.
Yeah.
I start with a side eye.
If they don't want to get up, I'm like, air hug.
Yeah.
Air hug.
Or if I feel like they're in the middle of something, I don't want to interfere, it's like, "Here, let's take it."
Yeah, I'll have, I've had furries come up and be like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Don't people guilt you into hugging them anyway?
Yeah.
Heinz, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, another thing is, I've had this happen once when I took a picture of somebody accidentally got into the picture, and they said, could you delete that picture? And I said, it's fine, delete there, it's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because sometimes people accidentally photobomb and you don't know who they are, so you can ask for, you know, is it okay if this is on Facebook?
Or just,
Especially
I
good-
don't want my picture taken today, I feel like I'm ugly, so.
Yeah,
please
or
don't.
whatever.
Or,
Or these are my kids, and I don't
Yeah.
want anybody
my
to know
favorite
who my
one
kids are.
was, it was the first time I actually entered a swimsuit contest. I was 17,
Wow.
and I was stuck out of the staff room for 14 hours. And we were like, oh, can I take a photo because you're in a swimsuit? And it's like, no, I'm exhausted. I actually want to put more layers on.
Yeah.
Like,
I would like to be able to do that. It is 1:13, so it's probably time for us to scamper. But thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Mason and
no problem.
Nerdcast.
Nerd Effect.
Nerd Effect podcast.
Yes.
I removed your middle name. For coming in and sitting with us, and thank you so much for contributing. And it's been wonderful talking to you. I'm so glad we had that time. You know,
Not a problem. Thank you.
know,
It was
it's been
wonderful.
great. Well, he and I were, roommates in college, so we didn't talk all that much since, and it's always been awkward, ever since the, incident with the cake, but, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll let you, release you back into the world.